Hi guys, and welcome back. In this video I'll be showing you how to build a calculator code using Python. The first thing I will do is I am going to name my file. So I'll come over here and say save as. I am going to go ahead and create another one called calculator. Let's call it calculator 2, and then make sure it's a .py so that your editor can identify it as a Python program. You can use any editor of choice. I'll be using Sublime Text for this project. The first thing I'm going to do is define a function. This calculator will have 5 operations: addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and the exponential function. I'm going to create the first function for the addition. We go to our editor and type in diff or def for define. So we define a function, and then I'm going to call that function add, and then put 2 brackets like that. You could make it addition if you want, but I prefer to keep it at that 3-letter abbreviation. Inside here I'm going to create 2 arguments, namely a and b. This will represent the 2 numbers that I want to add. So a will be added to b. Now at the end of the function you have to put in a colon, and then it will self-indent, right? So if you see that indentation, that means that it recognizes that this is a defined function. Yeah, so in other words, if you start typing over here, then there's a problem. So it should be indented like this one, the way it is. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to type in return a plus b. So this statement here is the one responsible for the arithmetic properties of that function. So in other words, this is where the addition happens. Now I could quickly go down and type all the other functions like multiply, subtract, divide, but I feel that I should first complete the addition code, just so that you see what we're actually doing. It will be much more easier for you to understand if I first deal with the addition portion of the code to its entirety. So now let's go ahead and type in the following. So now I'm going to do the print select operator. So this is a prompt to us to tell us what operator to select. Then the next will be the operators options. As you can see, I'm using this symbol on my key 6 on the keyboard. This is the key just right underneath the F5 key. So you press shift and that number 6 key, and it will give you that symbol over there. That's the symbol I'm going to use for the exponent or the exponential function. But like I said, I want to first deal with the addition, then we'll come back to add more functions for the other operators. We're going to start by adding our first digit, right? This is the number that we will input as our first number over here, right? So I'll call it digit 1. So I'll say digit 1 is equals to, so I'm defining this variable digit 1. Digit 1 is equals to input, in brackets I will have my prompt. The input functions allows the user, you and I, to enter information into the program, right? So this also allows us an option to add a prompt. So this prompt will show up every time we are prompted for an input. So I'll say enter first number, right? So this is what it will prompt me every time it wants me to enter the first number, and then the input function will return whatever I enter on the keyboard. Now I'll go and do the second one, which is digit 2 equals to, I'll just change here, and second number. Okay, so now I have the first and second number entered, but I need to enter the type of operator. So I want to select the plus, right? So what I'm going to do is then say choice. So I'm creating a new variable called choice, and in that variable I'm going to say input enter operator. So this should work. However, if you look at this input function here, I use it 3 times. This input function returns something we call a string. The string, even if you type in numbers, it's not actually a number. For instance, a string looks something like this, right? So a string will be like the name John, or right, or it could be, right, it could be this number 25, but it's a string. It's not considered a number by the program. So if I were to add 1 to this, it wouldn't return 26. It will tell me, actually it will give me an error. So we want actual numbers, and actual numbers look like this. Anything in quotation marks is a string. So an actual number looks like this, and we call that an integer, right? Call this an integer. So our keyboard returns something like this. Whenever you press 2, it will return this, and this is a string. It's not a number. So we need to change the returned input from the keyboard into a number, and we simply do that by using the integer function. This is the integer function. So you put everything inside that integer function, right? So it's the same thing here. I'm going to type in integer, right? And then I'm going to take everything here and I'm going to cut it and put it inside the integer function. So think of this thing as a converter. It converts strings to integers. That's what it does. It's a converter, right? So you could be asking yourself, what about the operator? Well, the operator doesn't have to be a number. My operator is a character. It's fine as it is. It's a string or a character. It's not a number. So I'm not going to change this, right? I'm going to leave it as that. We're going to return a character, either a plus sign, an asterisk, a divide sign, or this exponential sign. So we will leave it at that. We're not going to convert this input. We leave it as such. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say, right, if choice is equals to plus, which is this, right? However, I don't type it as plus. I need to put it inside quotation marks like that, because it's a character. If I leave it outside like this, the program will notice it as a as part of the arithmetic properties of the program. So it will be like equals plus. What does that mean? It will give you an error. So you have to put it in quotation marks because you're comparing a string to whatever string you would have returned here. So this is a string, right? So if choice is plus, then the program should do the following. It should print dig1 plus dig2, which is our second digit, equals to, then we need to the answer, and the answer is over here because this return function here, it adds the 2 numbers and it returns the answer. So in this add function we will have the answer. So I have to type in the add function here, and then I have to put in the arguments, and the arguments are these 2 things over here, and or you can say it's this over here. So it's the first digit, so you say digit 1, and the second argument is the second digit, right? So we are sending both those 2 numbers to our function. Then our function will process it and return back the answer, and the answer will be sitting here on our add function, right? I know it sounds a little tricky, but you'll get it over time. So basically what this is going to do is it's going to draw out the following. Whatever we have as our digit 1 is going to put it here, followed by a plus sign, and then this here will be the whatever number you have returned here, and this will be printed as it is, and then the answer. So let's see how this will look. Save and then run the program. Now the first number 5, and then I press enter. The second number is going to be 2, plus. When I press enter, it should then add the 2 and give me an answer of 7. As you can see, that's what I get. There is something I don't really like about the way the program runs, is that I have to first put in the 2 digits and then the choice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this out and I'm going to put it in between the 2, because this is how conventional calculators work. You put in the number and then the operator and then the number, right? So this is how Python runs the program. It will start with the first line at the top, move its way down line per line. So it will execute this first, then this second, then this third, right? So in this case, it's a good order to put it this way. So let's give it a try and see how that works. 5, enter, see operator, plus, enter, and then 2, and then there you go. I'll just add a bit of space over here since everything looks smushed. Now, as you can see, we have pretty much completed the addition function. So I'm going to go ahead and add all the functions at once. But now I believe you see where we're going with this. So let's go back and add the subtraction function. So I'm just going to do the same. I might as well just copy and paste it and edit it as I go. Multiplication. So I'm just going to type MUL because I prefer 3-letter abbreviations. And I'm going to change the operator to minus, because this is where the maths happened, right? The maths happen here, not down here. It happens here on the return statement. Okay, let me just do all 4. Then we'll go to the choice down here later. So I'm gonna then do the third one, which is divide. Again, I'll use 3 letters, and then I'm gonna simply put in the division operator. You know, even though I don't really follow this order over here, I guess I can put this copy, and it doesn't really matter, but I feel like I was following a certain pattern, and now I messed up, because here I said plus, minus, multiply, divide. So I would prefer this to look the same, but it doesn't matter the order of this, because this is called by the print function. So it shouldn't matter which order this sit, but I would like it to be that consistent. Then I'm gonna put the last one here, and I'm gonna call it pow, and then I'm gonna say I know now you're thinking, how do we type a code that deals with exponents? Well, the beautiful part about Python is that it has a built-in exponential function, or the power function. So, and that power function is pow. As you can see, it highlights light green or lime, and you just simply put the 2 arguments in there and it will do the maths for you, right? However, if you look, we have this here which we name pow, and then we also have this here, and this will cause problems later, so we need to give this a different name, right? So we need to give it a different name, or we can simply just call it exp for exponent, right? So if we want to keep this 3-letter naming system consistent, right? However, this is redundant, and you'll see why later. But for now, let's just continue, because the power function already exists. There's no need to introduce another function just to do something that you can do straight away. But you'll see that later what I mean by it's redundant. So now we are going to go ahead and add more choices. Okay, first of all, I should have added the else choice. Say if you type anything other than the plus sign, then the program should then print wrong enter to say you've entered an invalid operator, right? So now we're going to add more. However, now we don't say if, we say if, which is the same as else if. If choice is equals to, now we are going for the subtraction. However, we're going to change the minus sign to that minus sign. The equal sign remains the same, and we're going to change the function. So now we want to call the subtract function. So we are calling the maths up here. So it will come here and it will do the subtraction. And wow, if you look at that, I had it at plus, so it was going to give us a wrong answer. I have to subtract, and this reminds me I have to change the multiplication as well and say multiply. We use an asterisk over here. We don't use an x, because an x is more like the a is seen as a variable. You need to use an asterisk. This is the multiplication operator recognized by Python, right? We don't use an x, but we use an asterisk. So now we go down here and finish off our subtraction. It looks like everything is fine. So now I'm going to go ahead and do the rest. Asterisk. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but that's what we'll do for today. Anyway, this is the only time where you could use an X, and I prefer to use an X. It looks much neater. It looks like a proper math equation that you will find in a book, because you don't see an asterisk in a book. You see a multiplication sign, which is an X. The equal sign will still remain as it is. So now we go back again, and then we put in the last LF. Oh, did I say the last? It's the second last, not the last. But anyway. Oh, another thing I'm forgetting here. We should have changed this to multiplication. So ML, right? We are calling the multiplication function up here. So this will do the math, and it returns the answer, and the answer will sit here, and then we have our answer, right? So on this one, you guessed it, we're gonna put the div for divide, right? Which we'll call the function at the top, which is this one over here. This does the math, it returns the answer sits here, and we display it. So now we're going to do the last one. We are now going to do the power, which is shift key 6 on your keyboard, which is the power symbol. Again, here you call the exponent function, right, which we have up here, right? But like I said before, this is redundant. It will still work, and I can show you that it will still work. So let's go ahead and save and build. So now let's say we want to raise 2, enter, to the power. So now I press shift key 6. Okay, mistake. Then I say enter and raise 2. Let's raise it to 3. The answer should be 8 if this works. Then I press enter, and indeed the answer is 8. So you see, it's working. However, it's redundant because this power function already exists. So I'm simply just going to cut this here, right? And I will replace this, right? I don't need to create a new function. This function already exists. So I'm going to simply come here and delete this, right? Because it's redundant, right? However, there's something you should note, right? As you can see, the arguments now is A and B, and in our main program we don't have anything called A and B. The program starts here, just so you understand. This is where the program starts. The program starts here, it prints this, then it asks you for the choice, and whatever choice you choose. So if you choose the exponent, it will come here and process this power, but it will be like, I don't know about A or B, right? So you like, but it knew about this A and B over here all along. So why doesn't it know about A and B over here? And the problem is that these are not global variables. They are variables within this function. Only when you call this function do you then declare them. But if you just run it without calling any of those functions up there, it knows nothing about them. Let me show you what that means. Save, and then we run the program. Again, I'm going to say 2 raised to the power, raised to the power, enter, of 3, right? As you can see, it says name A is not defined, right? A is not defined. It didn't even bother to go to B. It saw that A is not defined, and it's like, oops, something is wrong. So we need to change this to these defined variables. These are the 2 defined variables that we have. So we're going to change this to dig1, and just like we did with the other one, this will be dig2. What's going on here? Dig2, right? So now it knows about dig. It's been defined over here and here, so it won't give us any problems. And this power up function is gonna do everything for us without us having to build our own function over here to do the maths. This built-in function does the math straight away. So let's go ahead and run the program and see if it works. 2 raised, let's raise it to the power of 4 this time. Enter 4. I think it should give us what, 16? Yes, the answer is 16. So you can see it works. We can try out, let's say, let me close out this. We can try out to run the program last time. Let's say do subtraction this time. 15, enter, minus, enter 5. The answer should be 10. So you can see our calculator is working. So this is how you build a simple calculator on Python. And thank you for watching. And another thing, please subscribe and like the video. It helps a lot. Thank you.